about them, but I wasn't really sure. So now you know. Following the Pizza Brigade, they noticed that the Pizza Brigade were delivering pizzas in Brooklyn, and Sarah found a refrigerator on Craigslist, and she had the idea. Her and Selma started asking nearby store owners if they could plug in the fridge in front of the store, and the idea was to fill it with free, fresh food for anyone who needed it. And being in New York, people are like, "Nah, you ain't gonna do that here." But the last person, I think it was like the fourth grocery store, or I'm sorry, fourth bodega owner or something like that, who said yes. So similar to the food pantry episode we covered previously, that's what this fridge was going to act like. Riverdale has a dense urban feel with a mix of those living in $1 million homes and other renting a single room. So all types of people live there. And a few days later, Selma and Sarah had set up what they called their friendly fridge in front of a restaurant down the street from their apartment called The Last Stop. So the system to use the fridge was pretty simple. Take what you need, leave what you can. And Sarah and Selma, they bought food almost every day to supplement donations. And a local food vendor would drop off fruit. Some of the deli owners on the block would donate sandwiches. So every day, someone donates something new. Within a month, it grew a lot. And at the end of every day, they sanitized the fridge and they refilled it and restocked it. And they were finding out why Riverdale was nominated as one of the 50th nicest places in America on that 2020 finalists. Anyway, and the Bronx community has been said to have a highly committed to doing volunteer work, giving to charity, and helping those in need. And they are really seeing an uptick in volunteerism and care during these crucial times. This is another perfect example of showing that we as a people can come together and take care of each other. When they were interviewing Selma, she was quoted saying, "It's been incredible to see my community has rallied together and are helping each other out, running errands, pickups, drop-offs for those who cannot risk going out. I'm a member of a few WhatsApp groups dedicated to fulfilling shopping list requests for those in quarantine. The groups never stop. There's always someone offering to help out. It's really amazing." End quote. So recently the fridge stopped working, and Sarah wrote about it on Facebook, another perfect example of community. And literally within 2 hours, a stranger had hand-delivered a replacement. And Selma had actually offered to give him $300 that she had received in donations for the fridge, but the person refused to take the cash, so true act of selflessness. Now, this particular article has everything and more someone would want in a feel-good story, in my opinion. You got a community coming together off a simple idea of pizza deliveries. They got something going on, something created in honor of a lost loved one in their name, and people plain and simple just looking out for one another. Common unity. I know I keep using that phrase, but that's what's going on in places like this, and a ton of others as well. We just need to highlight it because, as you can tell, one small idea can catch like a wildfire and evolve into something everyone can benefit from. Now, just to stay on topic with our last story, it's about a teacher who spent every day in lockdown preparing food for his pupils and delivered 7,500 packed lunches. I shared this particular story on Instagram back in April, but some more recent details have come out and I feel like it really needs to be highlighted. So, as we covered in our first food scarcity story, food scarcity is a huge problem. We also covered how important school has been previously for students who at home don't have the resources to feed them and how important school is for feeding them alone. This award-winning teacher in England spent every day preparing food for his students and has made his final delivery after delivering 7,500 packed school lunches. His name is Zane Powells, and he prepared 85 lunches every morning after fearing his students would struggle to access food when schools were shut down during the pandemic because Zane is a smart person and knows about food insecurities. The teacher walked 7.5 miles every single day, making his rounds for 17 full weeks and totaled over 600 miles over the course of his runs in northeast Lincolnshire in England, in the UK. If you do the math, this 48-year-old teacher carried around 4 tons of food total during those 17 weeks. And as much work as that might sound, He says it was well worth it after seeing the smiles on the kids' faces. When schools where he packed the lunches closed for the summer on July 17th, he delivered his final food package that Friday afternoon. And Zane was concerned about his students' well-being and wanted to make sure he could see them and see how they were doing. He felt like he needed to know where safe. He felt like he needed to know that they were safe and had access to food because, along with food insecurities, there are a ton of other problems kids face at home. I could go down a list, but that's for another topic. When asked why he did it, he responded, "I'm just doing my job at the end of the day. My role is to help nurture and educate children and to take care of them." Zane would get to school at 7 a.m., start preparing and packaging the food before heading out on his 2-hour walk. And he didn't take a single day off during the pandemic while taking on this huge task. So while delivering the lunches, he would sometimes leave the students with homework, which I'm sure they were less than happy about because what kid wants to do homework? But hey, you're getting a free meal. The least you can do is take some homework off your teacher's hands, or, do what your teacher says. He's feeding you. But not only was Zane doing this extremely exhausting task on his own, but he's also a father of 3, which is mind-blowing that he's doing all this. And even though he's done delivering students meals, that doesn't mean that he's done helping this cause. He's actually raising funds for Meals and More, which provides support to children who live with poverty. If you want to donate to that amazing cause, you can check out the links in the show notes. I'll list them there as well. Not only is Zane an outgoing human being and an amazing teacher, but he also works as an assistant head teacher with challenging students in the school's behavioral unit. Because of his work, he won the Inspirational Primary School Teacher Award in 2019 after he was nominated by a parent, and rightfully so. When accepting the award, he said, quote, "We should never give up on children. Having a tough upbringing is never their fault," end quote. And truer words have never been spoken. I mean, too many times we end up hearing about how you shouldn't be a product of your environment, and too many times kids are the product of their environment due to being in a crappy situation or just living in an underserved community. Another thing we've spoken on time and time again, a plethora of things, I used to think that one person couldn't really make a difference, and boy, have I never been so happy to be wrong about something. The more I do this podcast, the more I realize one person really can have such an impact on their community, and that impact can have such a strong ripple effect that it spreads out to making the world a better place overall. So if there's one thing I want you to take from this episode, it's that. No matter how little an act of kindness you think it is, or how insignificant you might think it is, it really can make the biggest impact. Now, this show has been all about food, or at least this episode has been about food and single individuals creating a huge change on their surroundings. So our PPDPT segment shouldn't be any different. So this week's Limelight PPDPT goes out to We All We Got SD. Being in San Diego, I haven't really done my due diligence and taken the time out to check out all the great organizations around here. My networking skills haven't really been put to use as much as I should have. But I'd like to highlight some more of San Diego's organizations because being in such a beautiful city, it makes sense to highlight some beautiful people and those especially making a positive change. So We All We Got SD is an all-volunteer grassroots group operating in Kumeyaay territories. The Kumeyaay are actually the natives to California before everybody else took it over and stuff. So the reason I'm highlighting them is for this week's PPDPT segment is because, similar to The Block is Back, giving out free meals every Saturday, every Friday, unless otherwise noted, We All We Got SD will be doing a produce distribution at 3 p.m. up in City Heights. They're able to offer these donations to the City Heights area weekly and no proof of income necessary. So just real short and sweet and simple. I just wanted to, another great group doing great things, helping out the people who need it in their community. And there's just so much to highlight that this is the least I can do. And hopefully something caught your attention in this episode to go seek it out and see how you can be part of the solution. So let's recap. Today's episode was all about food scarcity, food insecurity, in certain areas and the people doing their part to feed their communities as well as outside of their communities. It was about how one person can truly change the world. From seeing a problem like hundreds of pounds of food going to waste to coming up with solutions to get it to people who really need it. We covered communities that don't have a history of being the nicest to each other, but somehow ending up on the top 50 nicest placed in a very popular magazine. And this podcast has been full of surprises for me, and I hope it gave you a little hope for humanity and changed your mood if it wasn't so good when this episode started. Every time I do this podcast, it really amazes me how much of an amazing news gets brushed over in the media. It almost pisses me off, but it also reminds me why I do the podcast. It's a constant reminder that something like this is needed, and as much as I'd love to be played in everyone's headset and on everyone's stereo or be on everyone's top podcast list, if I can impact someone in a positive way by just changing their mood because of the good news being shared, changing their outlook on life, that it's not so daunting, I would truly be content and happy about that. I would say I couldn't really ask for anything more than just helping out those people, and for other people to help share this with someone that they think could benefit. You know, too many times we get into this slump of thinking about how terrible the world is, but if you focus on something positive, maybe it'll change you are what you eat. Same thing with your brain. You are what you ingest. So that's it for today's episode. As always, I highly encourage you to check out the links in the show notes and give some feedback on what other topics you're interested in listening about. I hope you share this podcast and give it a rating and a review, and it would greatly help. I'm all dyslexic today. With that desire to help people out. And thanks to all those who tune in week after week. I appreciate y'all. Be sure to visit theblockisback.org to help donate for the meals that they constantly give out and the Back to School drive that they're having at the end of the month, August 22nd, in front of the Block Shop, 6831 Torresdale Ave in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. If there's any feedback you'd like to give, feel free to send me an email at limelighthhighlight@gmail.com or any of our social media platforms on Facebook and Instagram at limelighthhighlight. Our Twitter handle is LLHighlight. And since you'll already be in the show notes looking at all those wonderful links that I'm going to provide you, don't forget to leave a rating, review, subscribe, share, and follow the podcast, especially if you're wondering how to support the show. That's all I ask. We're streaming everywhere you find podcasts, so no excuse to not tune in. You'll only be making yourself feel better, and as well as maybe somebody else. So tune in next week for more positive news, and I hope to hear from you soon. Until next time, be humble, be helpful, pay it forward, be the best you, and remember, it ain't all bad. Thanks for listening.